Alright folks, so with WandaVision coming to a close, I think it's time to rank all of the MCU films. Let's do it. You may have noticed that I've been doing X-Men reviews recently on the channel, or I finished those. The playlist of that is up there. And the reason I didn't review the MCU films individually is because I watched them all in preparation for WandaVision, watching the bulk of them before I had a channel. So while I may individually, I probably will individually review them down the line, wasn't able to do that this time, and since they're so recent, I'm not going to do it for Falcon, maybe not even Loki, maybe way later in the year, but I am going to rank them for you now, and this is where my thoughts stand. I will also say that, of course, with each ranking, at least one movie shifts around. Actually, often multiple movies. So I'll address in the ranking which films typically move around the most, but just keep in mind this is a tentative list at any given moment. It could always change. Coming in at number 24 should be no surprise to anyone with the C tier, Thor: The Dark World. It's a boring movie that isn't really sure what it wants to be. Some nice typical MCU fun with the comedy and stuff, but it's a boring generic film. Folks, I have to tell you, that's the only C-rated film in the MCU. Again, could change at any given time, but everything else is either a B, an A, or an S. Let's get into the Bs. Coming in at 23, the original Thor. That's all it's called. I usually like this film more when ranking the MCU, films, when I do MCU marathons. But this time I just wasn't as big a fan. Everything falls pretty flat. Some of the comedy's nice, but Thor as a character, especially after seeing him recent Thor, kind of sucks here. And all the characters kind of suck here. Just a generic film. Number 22, The Incredible Hulk. I have to say, this film does get a bad rap. I actually like, quite a bit of it. Nothing is great, of course. And it doesn't really have the emotional depth of the MCU, and it's also, easily the most different of any of the MCU projects. So they really hadn't found their footing yet. But Edward Norton plays a nice Hulk, and there is some nice action here and there. So, number 22, The Incredible Hulk. Number 21, another B, Captain Marvel. The Nick Fury Captain Marvel dynamic here is really great stuff, actually. But the Skrull conflict and Carol trying to figure out her past isn't really handled all that well. Yon-Rogg is a horrible villain. And the premise in general just isn't that interesting, and I hope that they are able to build on and make the character herself more interesting and not just rely on her relationship with Nick Fury, because I think that could be better. We'll see. For now, Captain Marvel's 21. At number 20, folks, Ant-Man and the Wasp. So this film is usually very low, sometimes even second to last, of course not beating Thor: The Dark World, but I liked it quite a bit more this time, obviously not too much more because it's still 20th place. But, so it's far too long for an Ant-Man film. The villains are atrociously bad. Ghost, Sunny are all very bad villains. But, it's got that comedy. It's got that Ant-Man comedy. Those fun moments, some great action, even, the Pez, the throwing. There's so much fun to be had here sometimes that it's a nice film. I love the MCU. And in case you didn't know that, you're about to know it even more because everything above number 20, Ant-Man and the Wasp, is either an A or an S. Let's get into it. Teetering on the border between B and A, it switches frequently, is Doctor Strange. Bad villain, typical origin story, but there's again some nice comedy, and Benedict Cumberbatch is great. And the visual effects are certainly helping this film too, because wow. Number 18, Ant-Man, the original, one of the funniest films in the MCU easily, with a great introduction to numerous characters, not just Scott. The heist stuff is fun, but then most of everything else is also pretty lame again besides the comedy, and Darren Cross is a horrible villain. I think you're starting to see a lot of horrible villains among these bad films. But that trend is broken with number 17, Black Panther. This film has some of the best themes in the entire franchise, but unfortunately it is, slightly generic, and there's not too much that makes it stand out. And of course the visual effects are atrocious. God. Why'd they have to rush them? These visual effects are horrible. You get the classic character dies trope in here, and it's just some more generic stuff. Great themes though, great villain. Black Panther's number 17. Coming in at number 16, Iron Man, the original. This film, a lot of people really love it. I've never quite gotten that, but of course it is great, a ton of fun. It suffers from, not exactly finding its footing yet, but Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark is Voila. And I will always respect this film for kicking off this magnificent franchise. Coming in at number 15, Iron Man 2. Also an A. This one's a bit of a controversial opinion because, of course, I slightly prefer Iron Man 2 to Iron Man. And when I say slightly, I do mean slightly. I mean very, very slightly. Not a large difference in between them. I like that it explores Tony's alcoholism. It adds an extra layer to the already narcissistic Tony that we know. And I adore Justin Hammer. I love him so much. What a good character. Rhodey gets to share the spotlight a little bit more in this film. But of course, on the flip side, people are right. The action is pretty lame. And it's pretty rare even. There's not that many action scenes, and Whiplash sucks. Coming in at number 14, folks, you have Avengers Age of Ultron. This one certainly does not rise to the level of, the other Avengers films. And frequently, again, when I do these marathons, it's actually, most of the time comes in close to dead last. But this time I quite liked it. There's enough fun to be had here. Ultron's great. The team dynamic is always great. And it's certainly, slow, boring at parts. But there's still lots of fun to be had here. Coming in at number 13, folks, you've been waiting for it. WandaVision. WandaVision coming in at number 13. The newest addition to the MCU, of course, kicked off Phase 4. As a TV show, it suffers from consistency issues again. Some episodes are obviously not as great as others. But in general, it does a good job of exploring Wanda's grief while also managing, the main complaint that MCU gets is not being original, following a cookie-cutter formula. And WandaVision does something very unique and different. And it will stand out for that reason, and it is overall has some of the best moments in the MCU. Number 13. At number 12, Thor Ragnarok. This film is great. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like, again, people like it more than they should. The comedy is, again, some of the funniest in the MCU, but I frequently find it to be overbearing, to be honest with you. I feel like it overtakes the plot at many points in the film, and to its detriment. At number 11, folks, I will defend this film until I die. Captain America: The First Avenger. Great movie about a war. A great war film, by the way. Very stylistic, very fascinating character. I love Captain America. In case you didn't know that, you do now, because, of course, the one constantly deemed his worst movie is, of course, number 11, this high. But a great film. Embraces the comic book aspects of the character and sometimes laughs at them, sometimes incorporates it into the film effectively. I know I've said this in pretty much every film, but the MCU is really good at making fun movies, and this is another one. Coming in at number 10, Captain America: Civil War. I have more problems with this film than a lot of the other films, maybe lower, and certainly higher. But, so, it's boring, it's slow. They get a lot of complaints about just coloring, and it doesn't feel very innovative per se, but the storyline is great. It's got major implications for the MCU. The characters are fantastic, and it's very ambitious. You have these battles, and it's sort of the conflict is what makes it super interesting. You have Tony and Cap, who both make good points. I mean, Cap is obviously right. If you disagree, you're wrong, but let me know in the comments why you're so wrong or you disagree. But that's what really makes it so interesting. These two main characters of the MCU so far going at it both, in fighting, which is awesome to watch, the airport scene, but also in a battle of the minds. Number 9, Guardians of the Galaxy. I find it hard to believe that anyone dislikes this film. I haven't seen anyone say that, but if you do, again, I'd find that very shocking. Let me know why if you do, because this film is just so, I'm going to say it again, aren't I? So much fun. The comedy is excellent, some of the best in the MCU. The origin and the dynamic, of course, of this team is great. And everyone's got chemistry. Everyone serves their function within the team. And it's a great romp. Of course, generic villain, generic story. But this film uses that to its advantage. It's intentional that Ronan is this pretty lame villain. It wouldn't work with someone because the villain would steal the show otherwise from this colorful cast of characters. So, nice movie. At number 8, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Again, a bit of an unpopular opinion as far as I can tell. But I feel like this film builds off of everything from the first film and does it better. Of course, I do have some complaints with this film. But the main thing I like about this film is the emotions that it dives into. You have, Drax is, first of all, so much funnier in this film. Rocket and Yondu have this special tie about them being sort of outcasts, being morphed into this thing that they often try to resist being. Gamora and Nebula working on their familial stuff, and then Peter, of course, with his dad. And then, of course, again, he finds out at the end that Yondu was his true father, the father figure that raised him, and he's trying to learn how to become independent because he is sort of an immature guy, and that's something he needs to work past. And so this film really dives into all of that, and I think it's done really well. And a lot of people don't seem to recognize that. So I think that, of course, this film still has problems, don't get me wrong, but I really like this film. Number 8. Number 7, folks, is the original Avengers. This film was very long, and there's some, very dated choices already that, sort of make you question, you got Cap's costume. But, God, I'm going to say it again. Fun. So much fun here. So much great action, the great dynamic, and then everyone just meeting each other for the first time. How can you not smile at pretty much every scene in this film? So much good stuff here. At number 6, Spider-Man Homecoming. The 2 Spider-Man films don't really do anything wrong. They're really coming-of-age stories in part, high school stories, sort of reminiscent of the John Hughes era, and they both tackle very interesting themes. And Spider-Man Homecoming tackles the idea of, again, the traditional Spider-Man theme, with great power comes great responsibility. But then you have the Iron Man father figure thrown into the mix, and I think Vulture, in this iteration of Vulture, serves as a great opposite to Peter Parker, to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And I think one of the better villains in the MCU, and their, I don't want to say relationship, but their, or dynamic, but their sort of moral differences, and it's a fascinating thing to look into. Moving into the top 5, folks. Spider-Man Far From Home is next. This is probably, I think I'm just going to say, the funniest film in the MCU. And again, it just builds off of everything that Homecoming did and does it better. And just that, again, the addition of the comedy and it being placed after Endgame and exploring the loss of that father figure that he knew so well. It's another fascinating look at themes, another funny romp with a great character, a great fan favorite, great film. And folks, I've talked a bit on this channel about my S rating, which is, of course, the best rating I can give a film. And I've talked a bit about the exclusivity of it. And you may question how exclusive it really can be if 4 films on this list are S tier. And I would just say that maybe it has nothing to do with the exclusivity of the rating and more to do with the quality of these films. Top 4, all S tier. Let's get into it. Number 4, Iron Man 3. Half of you just clicked off the video if you had already stayed through all my other ridiculous takes, right? Stop. This film will not be tarnished any longer. EDPC reviews will not stand for it. This film is excellent. Excellent. It knows what it's doing with the character of Iron Man. It takes the best parts about him, the best parts about his character, all of his ghosts, all of his problems, all the skeletons in his closet, his charisma, his comedy, his intelligence. It takes him out of the suit. It places him in a position with a kid that he, again, the father relationship with Peter down the line, it started here, folks. He has to use his wits to get out of the situation that he has put himself in because of his mistakes in his past. It is great. It is fun. It is funny. Some of the best action in the entire franchise. The dock scene. You got the Air Force One rescue. Folks, this film is a masterpiece. The best Iron Man film by far, and a real look at the character of Iron Man. Look no further than here if you want to get to know his character. Great movie. No more disrespect. But if you have disrespect, put it in the comments, because any disrespect, I want to see it, personally. So you put it down in the comments. Or, even if you've seen people disrespecting it, rat them out to me, because I want to know them, right? I want to know them. Put them down in the comments below. Not tolerated anymore. No, you are not allowed to not like this film. Coming into number 3, everybody likes this film. I'm not special. Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Captain America is my favorite character. Political thrillers are one of my favorite genre. This film has so much. Well, I'm not even going to speak that much about it because you already know. Presuming you've seen this film, you already know how good it is. You have the implications of S.H.I.E.L.D., this organization getting toppled and brought to the ground in this one film with Alexander Pierce, Robert Redford, brilliant casting, brilliant character. At the top of it all, Bucky, his friend, returning. Black Widow and Cap have a great dynamic in this film. And again, just a political thriller with Captain America having to solve stuff out. The action is some of the best easily in the franchise. And it's just so smooth as butter. Great film. Yeah. But folks, assuming you've been keeping track, there are only 2 films left. And you probably know what they are by now. But number 2 is going to be Avengers Endgame. Avengers Endgame number 2. A blast of a film. I'm not even talking about the final battle or time travel, for God's sakes. I love time travel. I love it. But a great conclusion to a decade-long franchise with 22 films in it that, man, you know, there's so much to unpack in this film. No wonder it's 3 hours long. Just different emotions, of course, whether you have a depressed Thor, which some people argue wasn't handled well. You know, I can agree. There are certainly problems with this film, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't one of my favorite. Easily warrants an S tier, an S rating. And yeah, you know, this film has been talked about to death. I have nothing original or interesting to say about it. But first place is Avengers Infinity War, because it masters every key part of the MCU. It is baffling how effortlessly the Russos make it seem to tie in so many characters in one film and give them all their individual nice little moments. Characters that we've gotten to know over the entire franchise, like I said with Endgame, that nice conclusion. This isn't quite the conclusion, but we've gotten to know these individual characters and getting to see them all interact with each other, slowly coming to know each other. It's such a joy to watch. The Guardians and Thor, Iron Man and Doctor Strange. It's all so great. It's all so great. Some of the best stuff I've seen. While the final battle in Endgame is certainly better than anything here, there are numerous excellent battles in this film. Whether it be on Earth, whether it be on Titan, whether it be in Wakanda, which is wild. The film is so adrenaline pumping. And on top of it all, you have that amazing ending. The film had the balls to go that route. And whether or not it actually stayed true, any of that stuff, it will leave you with a gasp every time. Infinity War is a triumph. All right, folks. So that is my ranking of the MCU films. Again, so if you're watching this when it came out, Falcon and the Winter Soldier will come out soon. I'm not going to redo this video. At the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I'll probably just say where it fits in to that tier list, what rating I would give it. And folks, yeah, maybe I'll individually review them someday down the line and rank them again, I'm sure, depending on how long this channel lasts. But if you like this video, let me know with a like. Subscribe, please. I would appreciate that very much if you like videos like this. Hit the bell to be notified whenever I upload. Comment, because I want to see what you have to say. It's so much fun, more fun when we can interact and share our thoughts. Leave your list, please. I will heart it. If you leave your list, I will give it a heart. I don't care how many lists are in the comment. I will heart it all. That's a promise. I don't know if I'm going to promise that because that might not go well someday. But, you know, if you're some of the first, I'll heart it. I promise you. Great stuff. What am I doing? I've been EDPC Reviews. You've been amazing, and I will see you in the next video.